Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning. It's so confusing just starting the beginning of the stream. They need to make that a little easier. And I want to see if I can get it up here in case if anybody wants to comment. Welcome. Welcome to SOULdemic, episode 3. I'm Jonathan with Carol and Carol. I'm going to see if I can bring it up here just so if you do comment if you have a question or have something to share with us, and hopefully I will get it running here so we can actually see it. I'm seeing episode 2. Oh, there. Okay. I'm going to hit. All right. Phone is up. So I'll look there every now and again, see if anybody says anything. Welcome, Carol. Carol, good morning.
Carol.
How was everybody's week?
It was eventful, yeah.
It's a good way to put it. That's like saying when you look at a baby and you can't figure out what to say, you say, wow, that's some baby.
That's a good one.
It seems like half of the people out there have nothing going on because we're all in lockdown, so bored out of their minds. And the other half is just going overboard and crazy, and we don't know what to do with this lockdown because there's so much more to do, even though we're presumably trapped. So it's a very interesting time right now.
Yeah, it's sort of like it makes you look at time differently too. I mean, you have to prioritize, and you have to, one of the great things I think about this pandemic, we know the awful things, but one of the great things is if you follow your longing, you start to realize, wow, I like talking to people, or I don't like talking to people, or I have to set this up differently, you know. What I love is that there are a lot of people who are being real, you know, there's just getting on and saying whatever their dreams are. Gives you a lot of time when you're stuck in the house by yourself. I mean, not me, because I've always got too many projects going. But yeah, and you're forced to say, hey, what is valuable to me? You know, now time is limited, what's valuable? Or you start realizing that there are people pushing your buttons, and you got to look at what it is about yourself. You know, lots going on, but I can see a real need to connection, you know, for connection now, and people needing connection, you know, as all our systems fall apart.
Yeah, so we spoke about connection last week, and there's certainly a lot more to talk about it. And one of the things that the three of us spoke about afterwards was, so how did we get to a place of disconnection? And not just the pandemic, though inclusive of, but it seems like over time, let's say that at least I've been alive, but the more we presumably got connected, the more we are feeling disconnected. So the source of disconnection, the source of separation, and what the heck is going on here, and why do we feel so disconnected? How about starting?
Sarah, you want to take a shot at it before I do?
Sure. So I was marinating on this, and you know, before I came here, what just popped into my mind is people feeling like they're alone. You know, and when people feel like they're alone, they automatically feel disconnected, right? And the reason why they feel alone is because I think when people have certain issues and problems in their life, they feel that their problem is unique and no one will understand it. You know, so it's like, no one's going to understand me. I'm going through this unique problem. No one's going to get me, so I'll keep it to myself. And adding on top of that aloneness is a social programming that we get from all these societal norms. So we kind of say, we're kind of constantly programmed is that this is the life that you have to live. This is the person you have to be. This is a job you have to take, and all those certain things. So you have this already feeling of aloneness. And then you have this external hand, like I like to call puppeteering, that's making you think, act, and do all these certain things. So there's so many layers upon layers that's going on. And in addition to that, to feeling alone, there's all these subconscious programmings that we've had for our entire lifetime. So, you know, how do we start kind of trying to get our head above water? And so and I think those are kind of the main causes of why we're alone. And Carol, you mentioned something that maybe you will kind of dive into a bit deeper. We had a conversation, and the first instant where you said that maybe people feel alone is when the mother gives birth to a baby and they're automatically disconnected from the mother. So that could be the start of it. But I think essentially being alone and feeling isolated and not being understood and seen and loved. And I think those are the main components, and in addition to that, social media and our subconscious beliefs that we've been programmed to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that part of it, sure, a human's biggest fear, one of their biggest fears is abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
And that separation probably does start at the very beginning. My belief is it starts even before that, because at the illusion of separateness, when we all come from the same source and we come down into soul as individuals, that's Earth is the place where we're meant to practice relationships. Everywhere else, once on soul level or spirit level, we're all one. The illusion is there's some kind of fall. In reality, it's a learning about relationships. It's like, hey, the source or God or whatever you want to call the beginnings of creativity got tired of playing alone. And so he made humans, or she made humans, or it made humans to see our different experiences. And when we're relating to other people, we learn so much about ourselves, not only about them. And when we finally are in relationship to our own soul, we're able to see both our commonalities, because the soul itself has a mind of its own, it has its own emotions. Our biggest feeling of loneliness comes if we can't handle or don't see or don't acknowledge the difference between, or can hold the duality of, we're separate on earth in physical body, but in the unseen worlds of which we're also a part, we're all connected. And so unless we go back and reclaim our own connection to our own soul, where exists connection to all other souls, if we're feeling alone, it's when we're not physically reacting to other people. To feel connected to everybody, we've got to go to the meeting place, which is soul mind in a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sorry, and just in addition to that, because when I talked about like social programming too, I don't know, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there, is that for a long time we've been kind of programmed or just focus on the self, focus me, self-made millionaire, self-made this, self-made that. And there's nothing wrong. Like, I mean, Jonathon teaches like self-love revolution. And I think it's important to focus on self and be able to fill our cup before we fill it with others. But I think now is a time, and I think, you know, the world is feeling it too. We have to transition from that me to we, again, to feel that oneness and connection.
Yeah.
I think I hear what both of you are saying, and in the aloneness. So then how did we get so alone? And so a couple things have been coming up for me. And one jolted me this morning, but I'll go into one and I'm going to share that because it's freaking me out. And I've not come to terms with it. And I don't know what to do about it. But the big thing is fear. I think fear, we are all afraid of what other people are thinking about us. And when we're in the state of fear, I find that there are two predominant places we go. One is we withdraw or we attack. Now, if we attack to prove we're superior than the other and better or whatever that is, there's no real connection. You know, and it's interesting, Matteo, he's 5 and he talks a lot about, you know, am I smarter than you? Or we'll race to the corner, right? I'm faster than you. And there's a lot of comparison, and I'm trying to teach him that comparison is the end of joy, right? When we compare ourselves to others. So we're all smart in different ways. It doesn't matter if one is smarter than the other, or say, I'm faster than my friend, you know? And it's like, it doesn't matter who's faster. Can we just run?
Yeah. I hear you. And, you know, America is one of those places, and I don't know whether, I mean, I'm a big believer in any system can work if you have good people, you know, doing it, not greed, not all that other stuff, but the competition. And like Carol was saying, our social programming, where one of the first things you ask somebody else is, what do you do? And like, what's your job description? What do you do? And so many people have defined success in different ways from the way I have always. And what I would say to you, Jonathan, is I'd love to hear more about that from you, because I have to tell you that I honestly feel no fear. Now, the great part about that is because, first of all, I'm introverted. I write books. I can do that anywhere, you know. And I'm not afraid because, you know, as old as I am, you get through a lot of fears. I mean, like I said, there were a lot of diseases I had. I lost some of the most precious things to me, ran into a burglar in the middle of the night. What I think, and I've been asking around, what people are most afraid of is the uncertainty. And once you know who you are and you face so much of your own fear, you've got to then start to dissect it to find out, okay, what am I afraid of? Because the truth is, you're never alone. If you can connect to your soul, as soon as you start to breathe, like Carol said last week, and you get in touch with that place, it's like if there's a big meeting going on and it's in the center of town and you stay in your house, well, you're not going to be there. Your soul is the meeting place where we all meet. Once you find your connection, that feeling of loneliness sort of goes away, you know. But you got to take the time.
Well, that's the connecting to fear, right? So maybe I didn't phrase it right. Maybe it's avoidance of fear. I don't want to be afraid. I feel fear. I don't want to be afraid. So therefore, I will either attack or I will retreat into my hole. But we retreat in a way that's not necessarily connection with soul. We retreat in a way that's more hiding. So how do we go, okay, I'm afraid, and to what you're saying, okay, let's investigate.
Yeah.
Let's be with the fear and turn our fear into a friend. I mean, I agree that fear can be a superpower if we face it. But we teach a lot of fear. So why are people afraid? Because we teach it, fall in line, or you're going to go to the principal's office, or you're going to get a bad report card and we're going to send that to your parents. So we can't necessarily blame people for being afraid, because if we, the royal we, our society, has trained people to be afraid so that they will fall in line.
Yeah, I think you said something that's really important when you say that so many of us are afraid of other people not liking us or not respecting us or whatever. And once you truly know yourself, you begin to laugh at the mistakes you've made, at the things. And after a while, it's almost like the you are. You understand you're unique. You're going to have similarities in the fears and in all the other things, but you're going to look back at some of the things you're afraid of, and you're going to say, I remember when I was afraid of, and now I'm not. Why? What did I do? When you learn your own path and when you understand your own sense of uniqueness, that you won't want to be a copy of anyone else, you know? So knowing yourself first gets rid of some of the uncertainty. And when you love yourself, like you say, then you can begin to allow others to love you, because you think, wow, I'm an original. Who wants to be a copy, you know?
Yeah. But I think at the same time that we can use, like, I think the number one fear that everyone has is fear of change, you know, in addition to that uncertainty. And the thing is that people need to understand that they can use fear to propel them forward. Because, you know, when I think I mentioned before that Zig Ziglar, his quote, and he uses fear as an acronym, right? So you can fear everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. So whenever I get this kind of fearful internal thing of like, oh, that's kind of scary, that's my reason to break through it, you know, break through that barrier, break through that challenge, because, you know, life is on the other side of fear. And in regards to your son, you were talking about earlier, John, about like, am I faster than you? I'm better than you. But the thing is, you can see it even at a young age, that programming, because essentially with competition, there has to be a winner and a loser. You know what I mean? So it creates more of that divide. But, with competition, again, just like with fear, you can use that at an advantage or a disadvantage, because we're all competitive. We all like to be challenged. But however, if we term failure as failure, you know what I mean? Then it's like, oh my God, we're a loser. But it's like, okay, that actually isn't failure. That is a lesson for me to kind of learn how to do it better. You know what I mean? It's all in the way we perceive things,
Jonathan, what I usually say to my kids is, or when they were little, I used to say, it doesn't matter if you're faster than me or if I'm faster than you. Are you faster than you were last week? Yeah. Are you faster than you were the week before? So let's try, yeah, and you make them compete to be their best self.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do.
Yeah, and that's how you can use it for good resonance and alignment with that individual, rather than kind of looking at it as a, this or that kind of thing. Great,
I'm going to use that. Okay, now I want to share what's I was going to say keeping me up at night, but part of it came this morning. So I don't know, yesterday or the day before, in my Facebook feed, someone posted about a new Led Zeppelin song created by artificial intelligence. Yesterday in my Facebook feed, someone posted about a new artificial intelligence modeling agency. And they had the picture of the beautiful woman, everything you would want to see in a model. And then today, in a advertisement, sponsored post on Facebook, I got it was an advertisement for artificial intelligence voiceover.
Oh, sure.
And I had friends who even bought it, which I understand, because for $37 you can have any voice in the world that you want. And I'm going, okay, that is a heck of a lot. And what in my mind goes disconnection, more humans. Well, one being out of work, which kind of sucks, right? Because there are people that rely on that. And I know then we'll get new jobs and things like that. I read about the Industrial Revolution and those jobs are gone. We got new jobs. So I do have that, but it just seems, that the importance has become on how do we get more done with less money than how do we connect to bring back connection and empower individual humans or individual souls. And that scares me.
I think when I saw that, by the way, I have something called Descript, and there's another one called Ottawa or something, AI, and they are artificial intelligence. What you do is, like, if I took this video we were doing and I laid it on top of that, it will make a transcript for us. And it will all be in words. You have to correct it. It's a pain in the ass and stuff, but it's good. Okay? When I looked at it, they have something out now that says, would you like your voice used, and they'll train somebody, they'll train an AI, obviously, to like read all my books in my voice. Okay? So the fact is, I thought, wow, that's kind of terrific. It's on the edge of scary, but it's kind of terrific because as humans have original thoughts and share their stories with each other, we can get a greater reach. I don't know that there's those of us who learn to connect on energetic levels, on soul levels, are going to feel the missing energy because we also exchange energy, not only the words. Those may not be in, I'll try it and I'll tell you, we'll see if we can find out the difference. But there's still, I can tell the difference if an AI is reading, even the really good ones, and some of them are really good, but you can tell. And as they make it better, I think as humans, we're going to have to come up with different kinds of ways to relate. Like, I know as a nurse, there are a lot of unseen healings that go on. on energetic levels. You're not going to get a robot to be able to do that. So little by little, I think it's peeling away some of the faults. But I do understand FAULT or FALSE, either one, you know. But I think that the soul of us is going to have to learn to connect to each other's soul, and we're going to get more essence and authenticity with that. You know?
So do you see that happening in this world of AI growing? Do you see that happening, that the souls, because we might not have all the face-to-face connection, that the souls are going to learn how to speak to each other?
I think I read a lot of science stuff too. I read that a lot of our neurons in our brains, you know, we only use like 20%. There's a lot of styrofoam in there that hasn't been developed yet. So I'm sure there are some evolutionary leaps that are happening now. That's how I see this whole thing. And humans will adapt because, remember, we're all avatars of our spirit. So if they know the next step, which I am certain they do because they told me what was going on 30 years ago. So I had to wait 30 years, but time is also malleable, you know. I think we have a real adventure in front of us, because if you look at what's been destroyed now, it's the falseness or the needs that haven't been met in our understanding or taking care of each other, you know. Mm-hmm. So I do think
the AI will take care of the crap stuff, and then our souls will therefore have the energy and the time to connect with each other.
Yeah, evolve more, I believe. Carol, what's your fix on this?
Well, you know, it's funny because I've actually had two, like, you know, this AI was kind of a discussion in my Genius in You challenge, you know, because it is kind of a scary shit, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it reminds me of Terminator, you know what I mean? A Terminator type world. And I think, you know, with all this, the landscape of the Corona thing, everybody thinks it's like, whoa, this is going on, but there's so much other dangers lurking around the corner with this artificial intelligence, right? Because more jobs are going to be misplaced, even if people think, oh yeah, my job can't be replaced, it can. So as more jobs are being lost, you know what I mean? A lot of people are going to be out of work. And so what is that going to lead people to? It's going to lead people to crime, prostitution, you know what I mean? All this other stuff. So there's going to be three separate categories. People that may go into crime and all those different drugs. People are going to just like put their hand up and be like, you know what, government, I need your help. I need your assistance. Or there's going to be another category of people, healthy entrepreneurship, people who want to change the world, and which is us, to kind of make this world a better place, kind of show people different things. And the thing is, artificial intelligence, they just kind of mimic, you know, humans, but they don't have that care, they don't have that compassion, you know, they may have creativity, but they still don't have that human element. And us as human beings, we still have untapped potential. So imagine the more we kind of invest in developing ourselves and reaching our full capabilities, you know, artificial intelligence, the thing is, it's inevitable. They're going to be used anyways. So we can use them to our advantage, but still let the human race rise and, you know, be able to kind of make that connection, because I believe we can.
Yeah, well, we have evolved. That's our special gifts, that we can think, we can create. Most of the originality and the adaptation is, once we get out of our survival thought, we are going to be able to become part of the limitlessness that we know we are on soul level, but we've been stuck in, how do I want to say it? It's sort of like if you're hungry and they give you a loaf of bread, you're not going to be starting to grow your own stuff. We've interfered with Mother Nature's whole deal, but not by making ourselves better, but by just taking from her and each other, instead of by creating more abundance in all different ways. We don't even know the ways we're going to evolve and create. And like I said to you before, I don't believe we manifest, but I do believe we create. And I think that that's a different kind of evolutionary leap, you know.
And I think another important thing is, like, you know, John was mentioning, you know, do all of our minds or souls connect? And I think we all kind of talk in some kind of way to each other, because when you think of this concept of critical mass, when you reach a critical mass, that's when, it spreads all over the world. So essentially, I think the best thing that we can do for connection in this world is that everybody kind of wake the fuck up. Everybody gain like awakening to themselves and their being, and then see like, oh, lift the veil and see how the world really is, and know that them becoming the best version of themselves is how this world can heal and how we can connect with each other.
That's the whole 100th monkey thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where there's monkeys who
on the other side of the continent, right?
There were monkeys who used to eat their potatoes just regular. And when the 100th monkey finally picked up a potato and rinsed it off, on the other side of the world, a bunch of monkeys began to wash their potatoes. So when the field of consciousness gets full enough for all of us, it's a critical mass of consciousness being filled with evolutionary thoughts for the well-being of all, then we don't even have to we suddenly become what our next step in our evolution is. And all we're trying to do now is stay away from fear enough and care about ourselves and each other enough that we try to raise the vibration of everybody. And then ideas will start to seep down for all of us to find our special way that we can add to instead of take from.
Or let me just rephrase, instead of staying away from fear, embracing the fear, going inside the fear, researching, studying what is there, so that, because inside of that fear are so many answers. And when we stay away from it, those answers will remain hidden. So the question is, how do we go into the fear? And yes, I have some answers for that. But we have to, and the problem is we're not taught it, right? We're not taught. So you have a generation of kids right now who are afraid because of this whole pandemic. I mean, Mateo asks every day, when is this going to be over? He's 5. So he's being brought up with this. We do the best we can, but he does live in the collective consciousness, and the collective consciousness is, hey, be afraid. Either be afraid of the virus or be afraid that your government is forcing you to wear a mask, right? So we have to learn to go inside of that fear where the true answers are. So that, because that's where that connection to soul can be, inside of it, not by running away from you yourself, but by running inside of yourself. And from there, then we run into connecting with the other souls.
Yeah, and the solutions are probably in our imagination and our dreams. The solutions for those things are what would you do if, or how would you solve this? Or what would, if you weren't afraid, if nothing could hurt you, and if you knew that you were safe all of the time, how would you solve this problem? What would you do? Encourage imagination, encourage connecting, because you should never make kids give up their imaginary friends. I keep mine. And they're great fun, and they're wise, because there are things that, same as we can't hear a dog whistle again, there are things we're not able to hear and see that we will be coming into. So, I mean, I had one of my granddaughters used to say to me, do you know, Granny Cakes, there was a fairy sitting on my dresser last night. And I said, what'd she say? And she said, I don't know. She says, I just looked. I said, well, next time ask her where she's from. And she said, okay. And so as our kids were brought up, we brought them up by fostering the imagination, the unseen. And because it was accepted in our family, they'd look around and they were surprised that other people didn't have fairies sitting on their dresser or whatever else. But we're so pushed into, if you hear something, you're crazy. If you're, we don't allow ourselves all the tools that we've been given. And imagination is one of those great tools that can help us, if we stop being afraid.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the important things I say a lot of times. You always have to be in touch with, your inner child, because as adults, like, when I hang around with my niece and nephew, I love hanging around with them because they just kind of think and do, right? And it's like, oh, this creativity and imagination and all the different things. But as adults, we think and we analyze ourselves out of things. And another thing I would like to pose in regards to kind of fear and failure is that, you know, my mentor said to me, Carol, does failure even exist if you're not willing to quit? And that is very powerful. And if you're not willing to quit, then you're never really going to fail. You know, and I think a lot of people need to kind of look at what happens behind the curtain of things, because they see like this overnight success. You know what I mean? They'll look at like Tesla and Einstein, but they don't look behind what happened behind the curtain of how much time and effort, you know, perseverance and steadfastness, you know what I mean, that they never give up. And because they knew they'd never fail. They know they're
Right.
right.
And real failures. Elon Musk has lots of failures. If you
Exactly.
there are lots of things that he didn't even give up on it. Real failure. And then he took it another way or kept going. Yeah. I mean, rockets exploding is a failure, right? But he didn't. To your point, he didn't stop. Okay, well, now how do you make it not blow up?
Also, the gift in your mistakes and your failures is that we're often so judgmental of each other. But if we make enough mistakes and if we fail enough, it's easy to forgive other people's failures. We don't judge them in the same harsh way. And those things are really hard to learn unless you take yourself to your edges and realize that behind every tragedy, there can be a gift. Behind every failure, there's a success that's a deep success that helps you understand and connect to other people. You know?
Yeah. And like that failure or whatever is kind of like a course correct, you know, you think you failed, but it could be, and you wanted this particular goal, you know what I mean? But it course corrects you into something better. So it really isn't about the goal. It's really about the journey to kind of, to get to that destination. And people need to be more flexible in that manner.
And about the questions we ask ourselves and the stories we tell ourselves. So do we tell ourselves, this is a failure, or how did I fail again? Why do I keep failing, right? This is a question that many people ask themselves. Why do I keep failing? And therefore, then they'll keep looking for that part, because the truth is, in many successes, there are failures you could point to as well, if that's the question you're asking, because usually it wasn't successful enough, right? But if in anything we go, well, what is the piece of success here? If someone pointed a gun to my head and said, find the success in there, right? There has to be something. So that was the questions you were asking after everything. A huge success, what was the success in there? What are you happy about? What are you proud of? And when there is a failure, okay, well, what is the success in there? Can you find anything, the teeniest little thing that was a success as a part of this journey from beginning to here that you're calling failure? And if we can begin to ask that question, what was the success in this? Then our brain begins to work in a different way, and then it looks for all the little successes along the way. And of course, those successes will
maybe we also have to redefine success.
Well, yes.
Because I think that so far it's easy to see that if success is something that can be taken away from you, I don't know that that's what I would want to call success. You know, I took care of thousands of people who were dying. Would you believe not one of them ever said, you know what I failed at? You know what I failed at? They usually said, you know what I didn't do? What I would have loved to do is something I'd never even tried, because they thought it was out of reach. You know, I never heard anybody wanting to spend one more day at work. They would spend one more day doing something they love. So maybe now we're being forced to only work at what we love and maybe decide what we're willing to trade that for.
No, but I think that's important. You know, people need to redefine success. But I think before that, you know, when we talked about, I think in day one, a little bit of, we need to know ourselves first before we can be able to define what success is. Because again, there's that comparison that we talked about earlier. So people's success is like, you know, I need to get that career or whatever. But if success for you is, you know what I mean, I'm going to be the most amazing mother ever. And if that's your success, then be happy with it. Or I'm going to be the best teacher ever. Okay, go be the best teacher ever. If that's what your definition of success is, just make sure that whatever that is truly aligned with you and your being, and not because you're doing it to people please someone or following, a life that will lead you to destruction, because it's not truly yours.
So I think this is really good. So let's share some definitions for success. Carol G, what is your, if we're redefining success, what is your definition of success for you?
For me, probably it is trusting myself enough to live and not betray my own core values. That I have a real problem with people not telling the truth, because I try always to tell the truth. And that truth is only because it's my truth. It's not that I think everybody should have the same truth, but I think the alignment, if you make yourself a list of 5 things that represent your core, and you can live consistent with them, whether you're rich or poor or whatever, there's a feeling of success that you've been authentic. I guess I would say, I would think success is authenticity, is being true to yourself. That's what my idea would be, whatever that is.
Carol B, what's your definition of success for you?
My definition of success is to be a master of my mind rather than a slave to it. And to become a better version of myself each day by being open to the newness of myself and opportunities, whether that be in mind, body, and spirit. Because I realized is that, when I had a time where I lost everything, and when I lost everything, I realized I had everything. So it's almost like, it's all about how strong you make your mental faculties, that you're able to withstand any hardship or resilience or any challenges in your life. So it's really about, making yourself a master rather than a slave to it. Because when you're a slave to it, then you are, a slave to victimness. You know what I mean? So it's kind of causes all this chaos. But I think essentially it starts from that, being a master of my mind rather than a slave to it.
My definition of success: unconditional love to self and others.
Mm.
Not bad.
Because I think if I and I'm not going to say I achieved that. I'm a lot further than I was. Then we can have the trust for ourselves. We can live authentically. Yeah, unconditional love. Mm. And I want to share, this is someone else, I don't know if it's his real definition of success, but this guy, Brock Pierce, I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's well known in some worlds. So there's this idea of success. You want to have your $1 million or your $1 billion. And he redefines success as not having $1 billion, but impacting 1 billion people. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really powerful. If we can, and it kind of lends to what we were talking at the beginning about AI and what do we value, at least from what I was saying, what are we valuing? How do we reduce, how much money we spend or create these companies that can make a lot of money versus the human being? How do we impact? So I think about that a lot. How do I impact 1 billion people with positive thoughts, with soul connection, to your point?
Yeah.
Aaron.
I was trying to think this week, one of the other things I was trying to do as a study of self is, okay, give me a couple of things. What are a couple of things that are sacred in my life? We've lost the word sacred. It's been thrown around so much and stuff. But what's really sacred in our lives? I think we have to look at that, because that takes us to a different level of understanding of ourselves and the context of the world in which we live and the world we'd like to create in order to help us all survive in a better way.
Mm-hmm. And with being sacred, it's kind of the values that we hold close to ourselves, the characteristics that we want to embody, the value we want to give. And when Jonathan, you say I want to impact billions, the way that we can do that is to become the best versions of ourselves each day. Because if we are all energy vibrating at different frequencies, the more that we raise ourselves, anybody in our vicinity is going to be affected by our positive vibes. You know what I mean? So and the thing is, when you are able to touch someone else's life, you don't know what they're working on in the background. That kind of goodness can kind of help him spread to his employees. Maybe he has like 1,000 employees, and then him, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like a ripple effect, the butterfly effect, the critical mass effect. So you don't really know our power, sometimes. And yeah, it's pretty amazing when you actually think about it, of how things unfold, because here we are, have a specific action. We're kind of, all of us, our three here are led to get together today. However, we didn't see in the background how universe orchestrated all these different things for allowing us to meet. And sometimes, I think about those things and my mind goes, oh my God, look at this, and this. But it's pretty fascinating. It's amazing. It's magical.
It's about the space between two. And now there's certainly distance, but how do we make the space between us sacred? I used to think, when people walk into a church or a synagogue or temple, whatever it is, there's often a lot of whatever's on the inside, and the space between, there's humility and kindness, right? You don't swear in those places, you don't push people, you let them have the seat, whatever it is. And I thought this even before, I was doing the self-development work. I always thought, what if every day and out in the world, people pretended they were in church?
Or what if every day in our world, we all understood that each of us was an aspect of God?
Yeah.
Or more than one aspect. I remember Jack Kornfield tells a story about a bunch of monks who were fighting among themselves. And then one of the very smart master monks from another group came over and said, I heard one of you was Jesus. And every one of them then became kinder to the others, because no one knew who was the Jesus. If we use Jesus, I'm just using it metaphorically, but if we really understood the truth that we're all aspects of God and that we carry that God within, it's not outside of us, it's we are the expression of whoever created us. And if we understood that each of us is so valuable in our own, then the only thing we would have to do is be ourselves and tell stories. It's like the 3-minute runner or 4-minute runner. Do they run 3 or 4?
4-minute mile.
Yeah, mile, that. Yeah. But if one of us can be the best at something, then it shows the possibility that all of us can. So if we start out in the morning looking for the heroic in any encounter, or the beautiful in any encounter, if we look for what we think of as the beautiful or the God within any other human being, and then we tell our stories, then we share and make available to others what we're able to see in each other. Then we can feed the true self, or the essential self that we are, and make it easier for all of us to live together,
That's the key. That's what SOULdemic is, right?
That's what it is for
we
me.
Wake up, we figure out how to connect to our souls in whatever way we can, and then we use that as a virus to infect everybody else one by one, until we get to that mass consciousness where then it can just be done.
Yeah, where everybody starts saying, oh, stop being so good to me.
Imagine, hey, you're too nice. Be mean. I can't handle this.
Right. Oh, stop offering me.
Let's look forward to that. Let's look forward to that.
Yeah, that's how we can get people. That's how we can be. That's how we can hope and imagine everybody else to be. And then what could you be afraid of? If you knew that your intention every morning was to be as good as you could to yourself and everybody else, and you knew everybody else would be like that too, what would there be to be lonely or afraid of?
I think that is a great place to hold this before we close, for all of us to think that, and for everybody watching to think that. How can I show up today with goodness in the world? Just ask that question. All of us ask that question.
Yeah.
The
Say
universe will give you the
two
answer.
yeses. Go out, start out and say, I'm going to say yes 2 times that I wouldn't normally. And just see how far your yeses get you for others, you know?
Beautiful. All right. Any final words then? Final words, Carol G, Carol B?
My final words is that, you know, when we're talking about being disconnected and feeling alone, I think this platform is where you can voice your concerns. If you have any questions, if you feel like you have something on your chest that's heavy and you want, you know, a different perspective, Carol and Jonathan and I are here to kind of help you with that. So don't feel afraid. You're not alone. We're here to help, and that's why this platform was created. So just putting that out there, and treat others with love, kindness, and compassion.
Any final words, Carol G?
I would just say trust life, even if it looks like it's giving you a hard time right now. Look for the gifts in the tragedies. And I'm not saying that we should ignore the pain other people are having, because I do have great sadness over some of the people who are having a very difficult time now. But we've gotten through it before. We'll get through it again. And let's make ourselves better once we get out the other side, you know?
Yeah, let's make ourselves better. Thank you for that. Yeah.
To everybody.
And let me just end with my final words. Well, I want to mirror what Carol B said. If you have questions, comments, reach out to us. We are here for you. We really do care. We got 3 people here that connected on the basis of caring, and we care about you, and you are loved.
Oh,
I was going to say
beautifully
something
said,
else, but that's it. We care about you and you are loved.
Yeah.
All right. Until next week, maybe the same time, but maybe a different time. We will let you know. But much love to all of you, and we'll see you later. Mwah.
Have a great day. A great week.
Week.
Yeah.